Fenson, and for spelling purposes, K-A-I-L-I-E. From the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Ray Alexander. From the EPA, Reggie Cheatham. From the American Red Cross, Peter Macias. And our FEMA Spanish language spokesperson, Daniel Yargis. We will open with some remarks and then have time for Q&A. So we'll start in hopefully about a minute now.
All right, we got everybody here? Okay. Good morning. Unfortunately, Hurricane Michael is a hurricane of the worst kind. There's nothing else that can be said about it. We're looking at 145 mile an hour sustained winds. It could possibly get stronger. Major hurricanes cause large losses of life and the most amount of destruction that hurricanes can bring forward. So, unfortunately, the window to evacuate is coming to a close. If it hasn't already done so, for many of the citizens that are in Florida, if you failed to heed a warning for any reason, your goal should be to elevate as high as you can and get into a facility that you think can withstand the winds at this point and hope for the best. You always have the option of calling 911, but there's no guarantee that responders can get to you at this point, as the system, continues to push through. What I mean by the storm being the type, the worst type, not only are we going to see devastating storm surge push through Florida, which causes the most amount of destruction to facilities along the coast, but the high winds as well. The Florida Building Code of 2001 went up to basically Cat 3 standards, so anything built after 2001 is designed to really handle Cat 3 and not much more after that. So we're going to see a lot of wind damage. And particularly the buildings that were built before 2001, you're going to see a lot of wind damage as this storm brings 145 mile an hour winds inland. The other thing is that the citizens in Georgia need to wake up and pay attention. Bottom line is this is going to be the worst storm that southwest Georgia and central Georgia has seen in many, many decades, if not the worst storm that the state has seen, and it's going to pass through and impact numerous counties. High winds are going to impact the vegetation that's there, bringing down trees, bringing down power lines with them, and they need to be prepared. Not only Florida, but also Georgia needs to be prepared to see the power off for multiple weeks as this system pushes through. Another unfortunate aspect is the rainfall that's going to be associated with the storm as it pushes through South and North Carolina. Hopefully the forward speed of the storm will reduce the amount of rainfall that South Carolina and North Carolina sees, but as you all know, Florence passed through. The Cape Fear River and other river basins have yet to recede back to normal river levels, and any amount of rainfall through South and North Carolina is not welcomed. But unfortunately, it's going to be a reality, and it's going to cause problems as it pushes through as well. So right now, FEMA has nearly 3,000 people in the field. That doesn't include all of our federal partners that are there. We're doing everything that we can to pre-position not only incident management teams and disaster medical teams, but also rotary aircraft ready to go to support search and rescue missions. We have search and rescue teams staged to be able to move into Florida, to the areas highly impacted in Florida, but also Georgia as well. In regards to commodities, the state of Florida has strong capability that we're working hand in hand with right now. They have staging and distribution capability in Orlando. We've staged commodities and teams in Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama as well as Atlanta, ready to move in as soon as we can do so and push through. The great communication, just got off the phone with Governor Scott. The governor is leaning forward, doing everything that he can to position the state to be able to help his citizens Last night, they made a very good move by using the wireless emergency alert system to let people know that this storm is getting stronger and stronger, and you need to leave. This is the final call for anybody that needs to get out. Try to do so. Those who stick around to experience storm surge don't typically live to tell about it, unfortunately. And with that, again, I want to reiterate, it's a whole community effort, not only the response part, but the recovery. It's going to take neighbor helping neighbor, citizens getting involved that haven't been impacted, donating their time and their money to help citizens recover all the way up to the federal government. So we ask you always to download the FEMA app. Go to disasterassistance.gov if you're, receive impacts from the storm. And then also go to nvoad.org, nvoad.org, if you're looking to volunteer and help those in need. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to our friends over at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Ken, come on.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. And Michael did strengthen overnight to Category 4, 145-mile-an-hour winds. It's important to not focus just on the core of the storm. This is a huge storm. We're looking at a 200-mile wind spread from the center. So tropical storm force winds will be pulling out into portions of Alabama, even into portions of central Florida. And this is going to be a devastating storm, possibly historical. We're looking at storm surge flooding of 9 to 14 feet. And that's going to impact the areas. Fortunately, though, high tide will be occurring late tonight, but water at that level will push a lot of inundation into the coastal communities in Florida. And then once the storm passes to the north, we're looking at hurricane-force winds getting up into portions of Georgia. There's likely going to be widespread power outages, down trees, power lines, and structural damage, and the threat for tornadoes along the track of Michael. As we get into Thursday and into Friday, the heavy rain threat pushes into the Carolinas. We're looking at 9 rivers specifically that were impacted from Florence are likely to see additional flooding. Fortunately, this is not expected to stall. It will be moving quickly offshore, so any flooding that does occur should be short-lived, and then Michael will be pulling out to sea by this weekend. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Ken. Next, we have Captain Kaylee Benson with our partners over at the U.S. Coast Guard.
Good morning. We urge everyone in the path of Hurricane Michael to stay off the water, stay off the beaches, and heed all safety messages and evacuation orders from state and local authorities. Coast Guard is working in close coordination with our federal, state, and local partners to prepare for the arrival of the hurricane. And rest assured, captains of the port throughout all of the expected impacted areas and their teams have been working in close coordination with their respective maritime sectors in order to safely manage maritime operations and control the flow of cargo and supplies into each of the affected states in advance of the storm. And we are closing ports to vessel traffic and cargo operations as is necessary and based on the storm's movement. So as of this moment, Panama City, Pensacola, and Cedar Key are closed to commercial vessel traffic. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Captain. Next, Ray Alexander with the Army Corps of Engineers.
Thank you, Administrator Long. Good morning. Ray Alexander, Army Corps. The Corps of Engineers is fully integrated with the federal response and our fellow federal partners and our state and local stakeholders as well. Currently, we're in support of 3 FEMA mission assignments valued at over $1.4 million and another over $140,000 of our own flood control authorities. Brigadier General Diana Holland, the Commanding General for our South Atlantic Division, headquartered in Atlanta. She has the lead for the fight. She'll be at FEMA Region 4 today. Our district headquarters in Wilmington, Jacksonville, Savannah, and Mobile have activated, and those district commanders are out and about pre-storm. We have key leaders, liaison officers, technical subject matter experts located at state emergency operations centers and other key local and critical nodes throughout the area. In terms of dam and levee safety, currently we're assessing potential impacts to the 29 flood risk projects we have in the projected path. Right now, our assessment of our reservoirs, we have sufficient capacity to receive the rainfall. We are reviewing the potential for releasing additional releases out of those reservoirs, so there's a potential that a deviation might be prudent. We have no significant impact projected to Lake Okeechobee in Florida. In terms of temporary power, we have received a FEMA mission assignment. Our temporary power planning response team and our supporting contractors are located at the State EOC in Tallahassee. Additionally, we have soldiers from our 249th Engineer Battalion at the Incident Support Base in Maxwell Air Force Base, Alabama. For navigation, our survey vessels are in safe harbor, and they're postured to support our colleagues from the Coast Guard and NOAA to open ports, channels, waterways as soon as it is safe. No missions in debris, roofing, water, wastewater. We're postured to support EPA to do assessments and provide temporary power on water, wastewater facilities. Lastly, the Corps is fully synchronized with the Department of Defense efforts and U.S. Army North, U.S. Northern Command, and the Department of the Army. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ray. Finally, we have Reggie Cheatham with EPA, our partners over at EPA.
Thank you, Administrator Long, and good morning. The Environmental Protection Agency is ready to respond to environmental concerns related to Hurricane Michael and is working very closely with our state and local officials to prepare to address any impacts. The agency's pre-landfall activities related to the storm are complete. These activities include contacting facility operations and reviewing the status of Superfund sites, oil sites, and chemical manufacturing sites. Much of that information gathered during Hurricane Irma and more recently Tropical Storm Gordon. In addition, we are prepared to address post-landfall impacts should they occur. EPA is also in close coordination with the state of Florida. We have embedded an on-scene coordinator in the State Emergency Operations Center in Tallahassee to coordinate response efforts for oil and hazardous substance releases should they occur. We also have an on-scene coordinator posted in FEMA's Regional Response Coordination Center in Atlanta, and as needs arise or as things change, EPA will continue to coordinate and support our federal, state, tribal, and local government partners. Thank you.
All right. And last but not least, our partners over at the American Red Cross. Obviously, this is a huge mass care effort, so if we can have Mr. Peter Macias.
Good morning. Last night we had approximately 4,000 people who entered nearly 70 evacuation centers across the panhandle of Florida and into Alabama. The Red Cross continues to leverage human and material resources to help with those evacuation centers. What we're doing is we're asking folks, please, if you're in the path of that storm, make your last-minute emergency preparations, and if that means to get out, please get out. And the last thing is we ask people, please, to listen to your local authorities, your local emergency managers, and heed their warnings and advisories. If you need real-time information, please download the Red Cross Emergency app. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Buenos días a todos, Daniel Yarguez, portavoz de FEMA. Les pedimos que tengan mucho cuidado con esta tormenta, una tormenta de gran magnitudes. Como lo dijo el administrador, es una tormenta que va a impactar a muchas comunidades desde Florida, Alabama, Georgia, y no se ha visto en muchos años. Esta tormenta trae vientos de hasta 145 millas por hora, categoría 4, aumentó su intensidad. Estábamos esperando que fuera categoría 3 para ayer, pero como las predicciones cambian, subió a categoría 4. La marejada ciclónica también se espera que tenga olas de hasta 14 pies de altura. Para aquellos que no pudieron evacuar o no tuvieron la oportunidad de desalojar su área donde estaban, les pedimos que vayan a una área más alta en su casa o en el edificio donde estén para que estén seguros. Pueden llamar al 911, al 911 para alguna emergencia, pero también tienen que pensar y esperar que a lo mejor esos rescatistas no van a llegar a tiempo o tan rápido como lo esperaban, porque tampoco queremos poner sus vidas en peligro. Tenemos equipos de búsqueda y rescate también ya preposicionados para poder ayudar y apoyar las tareas de búsqueda y rescate que se empiecen a dar. Se espera que esos efectos lleguen desde el centro de la Florida, también hasta Mississippi, hasta Alabama, perdón. Tenemos más de 3,000 empleados de FEMA ya preposicionados, también listos para ayudar. Y como lo dijo el administrador Long, esto es un esfuerzo de toda la comunidad, no tan solo de FEMA, pero de toda la comunidad. Organizaciones sin fines de lucro, los vecinos, si su vecino está en peligro, si su vecino requiere asistencia, le pedimos que le ayude y que ofrezca ayuda, pero que también esté seguro antes de hacerlo y que sea después de que pase la tormenta. El administrador ha estado platicando también con los gobernadores de los estados que pueden ser impactados. Ayer se dio una declaratoria de emergencia por parte del presidente, la cual abre y ofrece fondos federales para el estado de Florida para esta emergencia.
Thanks, Danny. So again, just to recap, our priority is saving lives right now and doing what we can to position to sustain life after this pushes through. Once we do that, then we're going to concentrate on making sure that we stabilize all critical lifelines. What are critical lifelines? That's getting the power back up, that's getting communications back up, that's getting the roadway system back up and functional, as well as taking care of any hazardous materials or hazardous waste issues that are there. In order to get the power, keep in mind, these are private power companies that we work with, Gulf Power, Florida Power and Light, the southern companies that are involved, Georgia Power. So they are already proactively staging power crews from all over the United States into areas ready to move on to get the power back on as quickly as we can, because we know that solves a large portion of the problems that we have after a disaster. But let me reiterate, this is, here again, and I keep saying this word far off too much, is unprecedented. So it's going to be a major hit. The power is going to be off for multiple weeks. And you need to get your mindset set on that and do what you can to prepare to overcome that. So with that, we'll stop and take questions.
Administrator Long, Kenneth Bowman from ABC News. With the people you have placed in the field, how fast do you expect to get your folks, those 300 people who are in the field, out and about to help state and local after Michael makes landfall?
So we have thousands of people in the field from Florida to North Carolina, largely because of Florence. But then when it comes to this event, mobilizing people in, we work very closely with the governor and Wes Mall, the director of Florida Division of Emergency Management, and embed staff, incident management teams in with the state. We try to provide liaisons into the local counties where the state directs us to. So we've already had staff there for over 48 hours. What we also do is stage. So when we stage people, we don't want to put people in harm's way. That could be pilots, that could be search and rescue teams, whatever it may be, able to move in once the storm elements pass. And it's a delicate game. It's a sequence game of we got to get the roadway systems cleared. We do first push debris, get major roadways open, arteries open, so that we can get teams and equipment down those. But then we also have airlift support from our partners over at the Coast Guard, our partners at the National Guard as well, to be able to get in as many ways as we can. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Administrator Long, Samantha Taroth, Spectrum News. Governor Rick Scott's emergency management chief sent a pretty blistering email late Monday night about the pace at which local Panhandle officials have been preparing. Are you aware of any local lapses in response, and is this a huge problem?
I think Director Wes Mall is doing his job and leaning forward and being proactive. I mean, look, we're all held to the highest standards when it comes to my position or his standard. And if we see something where we don't see enough movement when people are not heeding warnings, then we got to pull out all stops and push forward. So I applaud Wes Mall as well as the governor for the proactive message. I mean, they're the ones out there telling people to take this seriously and move and get out of harm's way, because people are going to die as a result of not heeding the warnings. And it's unfortunate when people know better than the emergency managers that are out there. So, what they did yesterday or last night with the wireless emergency alert system that we just recently tested nationwide, over a week ago, I applaud them for it. Push forward. Make sure everybody we're doing everything we can to make sure that they're leaning forward and understanding what's coming. Yeah.
Good morning, Greg Wallace from CNN. The storm intensified pretty quickly. Is FEMA ready for it?
Yeah, I mean, we're as ready as we can be, and rapidly intensifying storms in the Gulf it's not a new phenomenon. We first started getting alerts on this from our partners at the National Weather Service on Saturday. My phone was lighting up on Saturday morning saying, hey, there's a disturbance that's down there. And our response guys know that anything in the Gulf this time of year, this is major hurricane season, the waters are warm, it can spring up and, go from a simple disturbance to a major landfalling hurricane. Hurricane Camille in 1969, which is one of only 3 Category 5 storms to ever make landfall since 1851, went basically from a named storm to a Cat 5 in less than 72 hours. So we use history, we use that to always plan at least 1 category higher, and in some cases 2, because we know that intensity forecasting in the Gulf is extremely difficult. The The real problem is that citizens who are unfamiliar, and this hasn't happened in this part of the Florida Panhandle, they don't realize this, and it's a public education. It's hard for us to get our message out there on blue sky days when things aren't being blown up and your life isn't being threatened. But we continue to push forward on that and try to help people educate that living in the Gulf Coast can be very dangerous, and these things happen, and so that they have less time to prepare their house, their businesses, and also heed warnings.
News. Just to follow up on that, this is less than a month out of Hurricane Florence, which was a worst case scenario because it had stalled out over the Carolinas. Now this is has a wide span. How do you feel about FEMA's resources or access to resources going forward with back-to-back such worst case scenarios?
I mean, look, there's no doubt about it. I mean, first of all, let me say this. My guys at FEMA never get enough credit, and the federal workforce, what they've been through, not only last year but going into this year. These guys work around the clock to serve others and save lives and do everything that they can. Most dedicated workforce in the federal government, hands down. And they continue to push forward. They put their personal lives aside to serve others, and they're doing that right now, and they're going to push through. And I guess I could sit up here and complain about it, but it's not going to do us any good. And yeah, we do. One thing that would help is getting my deputy confirmed. It'd be nice to go through a hurricane season with a deputy director inside FEMA. Yeah. Any more questions? All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Have 3:30 p.m. telephonic update, and we do plan to have a 9:15 tomorrow morning update in this room. Thank you, everybody.